2 months after the election results, Jammu and Kashmir is set for a coalition government of the People's Democratic Party and the BJP. Two parties have finally reached consensus on issues that have ideologically divided them, and an announcement was made by Mehbooba Mufti and BJP President Amit Shah a short while ago. Both sides claimed that the agenda of governance will keep the best interests of the state in mind. Keeping in mind their ideological differences, the alliance is likely to be postured as an agenda-based, development-oriented plan and a get-together rather than a political one. Well, in the first phase, 6 cabinet ministers from the PDP and 6 from the BJP will take oath. Sources also say that the swearing-in ceremony will take place on the 1st of March and will be held at Jammu University's Zorawar Auditorium. Omar Abdullah, remember, also took oath at that same venue in 2009.
तो पहली बार जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को उनकी हित को और मुल्क के इंटरेस्ट को, नेशनल इंटरेस्ट को हमने नज़र में रखते हुए, उनकी क्या प्रायोरिटीज़ है, जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की ज़रूरत को नज़र में रखते हुए, उनकी एस्पिरेशंस को नज़र में रखते हुए, उनकी डेवलपमेंट को, उनकी प्रॉस्पेरिटी को, जम्मू कश्मीर की शांति को, उसको नज़र में रखते हुए और मुल्क के साथ उनके दिल जीतने की बात को सामने रखते हुए हमने एक अलायंस का एजेंडा फॉर्मुलेट किया है। और ये जो सरकार बनेगी, ये खाली पावर शेयरिंग की बात नहीं है। इट इज अबाउट टू विन द हार्ट्स एंड माइंड्स ऑफ द पीपल ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर।
एक कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम पर करीब सहमति हुई है और कुछ ही दिन में जम्मू कश्मीर को पीडीपी बीजेपी अलायंस की पॉपुलर गवर्नमेंट मिलेगी। मुफ्ती साहब और देश के प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के बीच में दोनों नेताओं के समय की अनुकूलता से एक बैठक कुछ ही दिनों में होगी और उसके बाद सरकार के गठन की फॉर्मल तिथि और समय डिक्लेयर कर दिया जाएगा।
Want to go straight across to headlines today is Shuja ul Haq joining us live from Srinagar. Shuja, this was expected for a while now. The two, parties with the largest, number of seats in the assembly. Given, the 2-month lead time that the state has gotten, towards government formation, what are you hearing? What have the reactions been to Amit Shah and Mehbooba finally announcing that government's going to be formed?
Well, Shiv, in many ways this is historic. We know it for a fact that BJP is for the first time coming, close to power in Jammu and Kashmir. Yes. And that is one huge point that definitely are going to, is going to have a lot of impact in the polity of Jammu and Kashmir. The other thing is that all these points that we've been talking about for a long time. In fact, it has been more than 2 months now, and the discussions over contentious issues like Article 370, Armed Forces Special Powers Act, sharing of waters, discussion and talks with Pakistan. These are some very important points that will definitely be in the minds of people at this point of time. Though the parties have not come out clean and clarified what their common minimum program, which they are calling an agenda plank at this point of time is, but there will definitely be a lot of interest among people to know what really have they decided on these very contentious issues. Remember, this is not an easy task for a party which is based out from Jammu and Kashmir to go ahead and tie up with a party like BJP. Two of them, as their own leaders have been saying, are two poles. One is North Pole, another is South Pole. If both of them have met and found common ground, definitely there is going to be a lot of interest among people, and on these issues I'm very certain that the two parties will have to come
there's
out
common ground that they found, but there's also areas of divergence. I want to quickly bring in Salman So, spokesperson of the Congress party, in on this. Salman, your first reactions. I mean, this was expected for a while now. It's finally official, PDP BJP government in Jammu and Kashmir.
Well, yes. I mean, we wish the two parties all the best, but at the same time, I've said it for a while now that these two political parties are like oil and water, and I don't know how durable this government is going to be. The state needs a credible government, and these two political parties have probably had to make many compromises, and now we'll get the details. But I think the thing is that the RSS had already started meddling in the government formation, and we're not even at day one. And I expect that things are going to be like that in J&K, especially because the Jammu BJP leaders are I think susceptible to a lot of RSS pressures.
Okay.
So if the Modi government is susceptible to being remote controlled by the RSS, the BJP in Jammu is clearly going to be under their control. I think that is probably not going to work out in favor of a stable government, and that's not in the best interest of the state. But let's see. We'll give them an opportunity. Let's see. The Congress will, of course, play its part as a constructive opposition wherever we feel that people's interest is being being maintained.
Right.
We'll definitely support the government.
All right, Salman Soz, thanks for joining us with your first reactions on the new government that's going to be formed in Jammu and Kashmir, BJP and PDP. Salman Soz, oil and water. He says it's oil and they're like oil and water, and that the RSS is likely to have a large hand in the way things actually play out in there. Brajesh, I want to bring you in right now. We will talk a little bit more later in the day about the broader aspects of the ideological differences between the BJP and the PDP and the potential troubles that could arise. But on the ground right now, Brajesh, the immediate next step is that meeting between the Chief Minister designate Mufti Mohammad Saeed and Prime Minister Modi to actually chart out the modalities of that agenda-based common minimum program.
Well, absolutely, Shiv. And what we are getting to know from our sources in the BJP is that in the next 48 hours, this meeting between Mufti and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will take place. And after that, we are most likely to witness the swearing-in ceremony of PDP-BJP government in Srinagar, in Jammu, on 1st of March. And this is one event which is also expecting that we are also expecting that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also go to Jammu for that historic swearing-in, because it's a very, very big occasion for the BJP, who had never thought in their political existence till now that one day they will be able to form government or be a part of the government in a state of Jammu and Kashmir. So it's the BJP is all geared up for that D-Day of 1st of March. Shiv?
Brajesh, the Congress says, oil and water, there could be trouble ahead. The very fundamental differences between these two parties, as Shuja was also pointing out, it's historic that these two parties have actually come together to form a government, in Jammu and Kashmir. What are you hearing from your sources on the inside? Is it all hunky-dory, or are they expecting, trouble, sooner rather than later?
Well, Shiv, the reality is that, most of the BJP walas will tend to agree more with Saifuddin Soz, that because there are too many differences between the PDP and the BJP. But there's also one factor which might work in politics. And the factor is that, that both sides don't want to lose this opportunity. The PDP also know that, the kind of mandate they have got, they are not sure whether they will get the same kind of mandate if they go for election again anytime soon. And the same is the case with the BJP. So both parties, barring the ideological differences, the pragmatic consideration for both parties would be to retain the strength which they have. And this particular scenario works for both parties, because BJP gets a part in the governance, gets a deputy chief minister, gets a chance to expand itself inside the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And BJP also knows that the PDP, the state of Jammu and Kashmir, is very much dependent on the finances of the center. So they have a leverage factor vis-a-vis the PDP, and both parties knows also in deep down their heart that this is their best shot. And if not, nobody knows what the electorate of Jammu and Kashmir might spin a big surprise for both parties. So they don't want to lose on this opportunity. And it is this necessity which both parties are banking very heavily on. Shiv?
Shuja, right through the last 2 months, all we've actually gotten from Omar Abdullah have been, some sardonic, sarcastic tweets, not very much else, trying to poke fun. Is he going to come out and, say something more, or are we going to have to track Twitter to know what he thinks?
Well, not at least today, because his uncle has passed away, and
Yes.
most of the national conference is busy with that, so that's why we're probably not hearing much from him. But definitely this is going to be one very important point that the national conference will definitely want to play a lot of politics around. Remember, as I was pointing out earlier also, it's not an easy thing for a political party based out of Jammu and Kashmir to go ahead and tie up with a political party like BJP, which clearly has a different agenda in terms of their ideology towards Jammu and Kashmir. After all, we're talking about a political party which finds its basis in Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's ideology, which is a deep-rooted history when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir and, questions like Article 370. So this is a definite, politicking point for any opposition on the ground here in Jammu and Kashmir, and certainly they'll have to hear a lot from Umar Abdullah, who we already see how he's been making sarcastic comments and tweets on the on the tie-up between PDP and BJP. But as of now, there is a little bit of enthusiasm in terms of the fact that there is going to be a government in place. First of all, it has taken around 2 months.
Yeah.
The big question is whether PDP will be able to sort of justify this to their electorate here. They will be under tremendous pressure to perform.
Shuja, just hold on a moment. We've got Anil Dhar of the National Conference who's with us. Omar Abdullah, is at his uncle's funeral, but Anil Dhar of the National Conference is with us. Mr. Dhar, your first reactions to the PDP-BJP government that's going to be formed? All right, we've lost that connection. We'll try and get back Anil Dhar or somebody else from the National Conference because as Shuja was saying, we're going to hear from them sooner rather than later. Brijesh, quick final word from you. Do we have a sense of what the composition of that PDP-BJP cabinet's going to be like?
Well, what we are getting to know from our sources is that there's going to be a 12-member cabinet will be sworn in, is expected to be sworn in. The Chief Minister will be Mufti Muhammad Saeed, and apart from that, Nirmal Singh is the front runner for the post of Deputy Chief Minister as of now. Shiv?
All right, so Nirmal Singh will be the Deputy Chief Minister and Mufti Muhammad Saeed is going to be the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir all over again. We'll get you updated on all the events that are going to be lined up in the run-up to government formation. Finally, 2 months after the election results in Jammu and Kashmir, historic, as Shuja just pointed out in many ways, the state finally has a government. There will be reactions, there will be repercussions, and we will report all of them fairly here on Headlines Today.